Now, say my name.
Heisenberg.
You're goddamn right.
Oh, man. You guys been asking for this one. I'm glad I waited. You'll understand why. Coming up here. Everybody jump the gun. You all jump the gun. It's all on you, man. See one good quick hit story. Looks like red meat. Got to back up off of that. Got to wait for it to develop. It's a rookie move. Today we're going to talk about Bill and Melinda Gates' divorce. Why he's a big, big, big fish. Hey. Like that new intro? I tweaked things a little bit. I hope the audio worked out pretty well. I never know what's going to happen with StreamYard. Yes, I still left the applause in. That's enough of that. Okay. So today is a pre-record. I apologize in advance simply because I have to take my dogs. My good best friend Ned has to go get his teeth ultrasonically cleaned. And there's only one place apparently in Northern Nevada that I can do this. So I have to go do it at 2:45 today. So I'm doing a pre-record today. I am going to make this an instant premiere so you guys can sort of follow along in the chat. If you want to give me super chats, that's fine. But I would suggest this, at least for this particular episode. If you want to support the show in some way, please look into maybe just doing like a PayPal donation or I don't know, some kind of quick hit. I take crypto too. All of the ways you can donate to the show and you can support the show is in the description in every single one. So have a look at that, and that helps me out. And that helps us out, and it helps Ned out too because his teeth are very expensive, and so are Bambi's. And they're both coming in the back of the truck, and we're probably going to drive about 45 minutes to get to this place. So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. So Bill and Melinda Gates. When I saw the story, of course, everybody knows that good old, here, let me put it back up. Bill and Melinda, there you have them. Wasn't that a great picture? Bill and Melinda Gates have decided that they are going to go their separate ways. Melinda Gates, I believe, is 57, maybe 58. And I know that Bill Gates is something like 64, 65. I'm not really sure. Little bit of an age difference right there, but, okay, that is what it is. I'm going to read a few little tidbits that I've been picking up, at least from, People Magazine here. And I hate to be the one to be paparazzi. Yes, I hate to be the one who's like reading, into stuff like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and all that good stuff. But every once in a while, a story drops in my lap. As you know, the story with Will Smith has actually taken a bit of a development recently as well. Will Smith is not looking too good. People say it's for a movie role. Okay, but we'll see how things go. He's way over much. He doesn't look like Will Smith anymore. He really doesn't. So, or at least not the Will Smith that we all knew in like the 80s and the 90s. So what's going on with Bill? What's going on with this? Is this gray divorce? Is this the, we're empty nesters and we're finally coming to the conclusion that we're looking across the breakfast table at one another and you're old and I'm old and now the kids are out of the house and we're empty nesters. And so, you know what? I can't really think about, I really can't live with this guy anymore. So therefore I'm going to back up and out of this. I'm out. Thanks. See you later. If you don't know what gray divorce is, I will explain it to you. Actually, I have at least one essay that I know of about gray divorce. And I wrote that as a result of another article that I had read from an actual psychologist, from a marriage counselor. And she had written this because she had such a high incidence of older women divorcing perfectly good guys, as far as she was concerned. And she was really, kind of put out by this. And there is a tendency for older couples when they get to becoming empty nesters, or they get to a certain point in their maturity, I guess, as a couple and as a married couple, and they just simply have been together for a long time, and they've been together as a role, or they've been sticking it out, I should say, because they're doing it for the kids, right? They're doing it because it's the right thing to do. And I'm not sure that this is exactly what's going on with Bill and Melinda Gates here. I also would argue that it is not what went on with Jeff Bezos and Mackenzie Bezos, and as well as Lauren Sanchez. But there's a lesson to be learned there as well. I have to. I'm gonna start out with a couple things here. I'm gonna have to preface a few things once again, as I often do. When we look at high-profile, very rich men. I mean, he's at least the second richest man in the world, or maybe he's the third. I'm not really 100% sure where he ranks, but let's just say we know Jeff Bezos is the richest man in the world. So I've had this conversation before. I think it was with Rich. I think I might have even talked about this with Pat Campbell back when Jeff Bezos and Mackenzie Bezos decided to part ways. And a lot of the same things that transpired when Jeff and Mackenzie decided to split are also occurring right now. And the backstory to this, I think, is more entertaining almost than the post-action report, right? Like what happens in the wake of all this is almost more interesting than what led to that particular split up. And I know what's going to happen, and it's already been happening. I've already seen this on several other channels when I was doing the homework for today's video. The mistake here is to pile on with the obvious answer. And the obvious answer is this: it's the black pill, MGTOW, doom pill, whatever. If Jeff Bezos can't make it work, what chance do I have? If Bill and Melinda Gates can't make it work, then what chance do I have? Here we have proof of concept once again that marriages don't work. Well, nobody's saying that they're perfect, and no one's saying that they ought to be working. And yes, you're 100% right. That's the state of modern marriage today. Congratulations. One golden check mark for you. However, as tempting as it is to sort of like run that up the flagpole and see who salutes, you have to understand what happened to get to that point. Why was it a good idea for Bill Gates to get married in the first place? Why does a guy like that get married? Why does a guy like that get married with no prenuptial agreement? Because he's an idiot? I don't think so. I don't think Bill Gates is an idiot. I don't know the guy personally. I don't think Elon Musk is an idiot. And Elon, if you're watching, I have your signed copy of the Rational Mail right here. When we look at guys who are high profile thinkers, I guess, innovators, entrepreneurs, the best I can compare this to, the archetype would be Steve Jobs from Apple. Steve Jobs was very much, I want to say, an autistic personality. He was if you've ever read the autobiography of Steve Jobs, the people who worked with him from the very earliest years, even Steve Wozniak, his partner, they described Steve Jobs as sort of this egomaniacal kind of guy. But the most common thing that they said about him is that he had this reality distortion bubble that kind of went on around him. And when you get to, and I would argue also that Steve Jobs was a pathological personality, right? He lived in his own world, and he had his own ideas about what he wanted to have in those particular worlds. And he wasn't the most social guy. He didn't understand, certainly didn't understand intersexual dynamics. He was very much an ideas guy. And this is what I was able to glean, let's just say, from reading his biography. And I picked up a lot of that. And I don't know him firsthand. I didn't grow up with Steve Jobs, nor did I grow up with Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos for that matter. So all of this is third party, and you're free to disagree with me if you'd like. However, I would argue that a guy like Steve Jobs was most definitely on the spectrum. I would also argue that Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, the richest men in the world, the innovators of the world, the idea guys of the world, or the guys who are, even if they're not innovators, they're fast followers enough to have positioned themselves in such a way that they became the richest men in the world. And as a result of that, it takes almost like a single-minded reality distortion bubble around you and a pathological personality to affect that. Now, in the past, I've talked about other pathological personalities, and I'm not going to name names, but it doesn't necessarily mean that just because you're an egotist, just because you have ego, just because you are in some way autistic. I think it was Elon Musk was saying recently, I don't know if somebody can tell me if this is true, but on Saturday Night Live, he was saying that he was the first host with Asperger's syndrome, or who was on the spectrum at the very least. And then, of course, Dan Aykroyd has to pipe up and say, no, I have Asperger's syndrome. I was the first. And you would expect people with Asperger's syndrome to go, no, I'm the first. No, I'm the first. It's a win, right? That's not the win you think it is. But it's a win in the sense that it's a recognition, and it's like, look, I did good. Look, I made good. And when I see guys like Bill Gates and, doing what Bill Gates does. Now, say what you want to, and I'm sure I'm going to see it in the comments here, that he's the devil, that he is the agent of the Antichrist, or he is in some way the vaccine guy who's trying to position himself to be at the very least profit from it. And God knows what else he's trying to do with this. Of course, the rumors are flying around that maybe Melinda is an anti-vaxxer or whatever. She didn't want to have anything to do with her. She couldn't put up with him anymore. Bill Gates has spent time with Jeffrey Epstein. We know that. He's been on the island. People are throwing that one out. There's rumors flying around, of course, that Bill Gates had an ex-girlfriend that he was allowed to spend. He's the richest man in the world. He was allowed to spend 1 weekend a year, I think, or 1 week a year with his ex-girlfriend on some like private island or some like private resort of some kind on the beach. I think it was in North Carolina or something like that. I've got the details here. If you really want them, you can go look them up. Today's show is not about the salaciousness. I'm not trying to be National Enquirer here. I just work here, man. I'm just presenting you the facts. I'll show, actually, you know what? Why don't we do this right now? I'm going to bring up the picture of the ex-girlfriend. Let's look at the ex-girlfriend here really quickly. This is the chick that Bill Gates is spending 1 weekend a year, I believe, by permission. It's his hall pass. I don't know who this person is per se. I'm sure you can go find it if you want to go look it up. In People magazine, there's a lot of details that are coming out right now. And again, one of the reasons why I held off from hitting on this is because when something like this comes around, especially the stuff with Jeff Bezos was a prime example of this. It pays to be patient. And it pays to figure out, it pays to wait just a little bit, because like when Jeff Bezos' divorce was happening, then we heard about Lauren Sanchez and how she was really a predatory kind of female, at least by the textbook definition. Lauren/Dirty Sanchez was most definitely a predatory female. And I'll explain that here in just a second, but like as far as the stories coming out and everything, her brother had released or had leaked some information about Jeff and Lauren being together, and of course that set everything that was the catalyst, right? Everything sort of snowballed after that. So sometimes it pays off to wait a little bit. In fact, I'm probably going to regret doing this on my Sunday show, because I will guarantee you that something right around like Wednesday or something will come to light. And oh boy, I wish I would have known that before I jumped the gun. But everybody else is jumping the gun right now. So we've got, and then let's have a look again at Melinda here. Yeah, remember, she's a bit older here, so she's 57. I was looking at some other pictures of them. When they first got married. Now, they've been married for like about 25, 27 years. They got married in the mid 90s, I believe. So, and they have children, the youngest of which is like 18 right now. So there is that aspect. And that's what a lot of people are following up on, especially in People magazine. And you're probably going to hear this on Oprah or Dr. Phil. So everybody and their mother's going to jump on this right now. What they won't be jumping on is the fact that Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, even Steve Jobs are what I've talked about in the past as a big fish. And you don't have to be the richest man in the world to be a big fish. Okay. You just have to be rich enough to change that woman's life, to change a predatory females understand and can read a big fish from a very far distance. I mean, they understand. It's very obvious to them. I've got a few little anecdotal stories to tell you to sort of describe what a big fish is. But a big fish is something that is a guy that a woman will play the long game for. Mackenzie Bezos was not much of a catch, let's be honest. But Jeff Bezos, back prior to launching Amazon, or when he was in the midst of launching Amazon, was not a catch himself. I mean, let's be honest. He was a nerd, right? The odds of Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates, even maybe to a lesser degree Steve Jobs, and certainly Elon Musk, reproducing or hooking up or living the life of Dan Bilzerian, right, is pretty slim if that guy doesn't luck out in some way and doesn't see how to capitalize on that. Mark Zuckerberg, very, very much a pathological and a dangerously pathological personality. Same thing. I would argue that some of the most sort of, for lack of a better term, I know this isn't the clinical term, but for lack of a better term, the Asperger syndrome guys, the autistic guys, if they're in the right place at the right time and they can leverage or they can see sort of the signs, or they can sort of read the zeitgeist of that particular era, those are the guys that become Steve Jobs. They become Mark Zuckerberg. They become a guy like Bill Gates, right? Bill Gates is a big fish. All those guys I just mentioned are big fish. But there are other guys who maybe they have their own business. Maybe they're set. Maybe they look like they have potential to be a big fish, and women take that chance. They pile on. And there's I think there's kind of two types of women, and I hate to categorize here, but I think there's two types of women that sort of focus on the big fish. There's women who get a big fish and they didn't realize, they had thought the guy had potential. They didn't know that the guy was going to be a Jeff Bezos, but maybe he was going to be a surgeon. Maybe he was going to be a business owner of some kind. Maybe he was going to be a star player on the law firm or something like that. The guy had potential, and I've talked about the curse of potential in several essays before. But part of potential is part of a man's potential is actually realizing his potential, and the way that hypergamy works for women is that, and I've described this in the past, is that women have a very short window of time in their lifespans. So between the ages of, I've described it as 18 to about 28 years old, is the primary window of opportunity that women have to use their youth, their beauty, their fertility, younger, hotter, tighter, to consolidate on hypergamy. Now, Rich Cooper has mentioned in the past that women don't care about your struggles. They only wait at the finish line and they bang the winners. Well, that is true. The problem is that most women can't identify a winner. They don't know, and they can't afford to wait around in order to identify that winner. And that's really how hypergamy works amongst the sisterhood. Because as I mentioned in, I think it was like a couple episodes back, the sisterhood Uber Alles. The sisterhood Uber Alles exists for support and nurturement, of course, but it also exists to help women define and understand who has potential, what guy has potential. It's easy to see, like we talk about this all the time. It's on Fresh and Fit. It's on Kevin Samuels. It's on, by the way, I know I keep harping on those channels. There's at least another dozen channels that are picking up on that same template where we see the women come in and they ask, what do you want in a guy? And every aspect or every characteristic that they mention in a guy that would be a good long-term partner for them. They never talk about like who they want, the hot guy in the foam cannon party. They don't talk about that guy that they want to have sex with immediately right then and there. If you ask a woman, what is it that you're looking for in a man? They're going to say, oh, he's got to be funny. He's got to have, well, usually it's money, right? That's the first thing. He's got to have money, or he's got to have potential for that. He's got to have, and to have money, You've got to have passion. You've got to have ambition. You've got to have a drive. And what I find ironic about this is the same guy that they think is a high value man, which we talked about last week, that guy, for him to have that ambition, for him to have that single-minded drive, that becomes the other woman. That becomes what she has to compete with. And so when women in one breath will say, I want a guy who's got who's got money, potential to get money, who's already made or looks like he's about to be made. He looks like he's doing his residency at the hospital and he's going to be a surgeon. He's going to make, partner in the law firm. He's a law student right now, but it looks like he's going to be a star, lawyer when he gets in, finally hits his stride, like probably in his mid-30s, right? Those characteristics and those qualities are what make that guy a potential big fish. A potential of a guy that she wants to sort of lock down when she can get to that guy. Now, to have that drive, to have that single-mindedness, to have that like focus and intent of purpose, that means that she's going to be sublimated. She's going to come second. But like I said, in one breath, that's what she says she wants. And another breath, she says, well, he's got to bring me flowers. He's got to treat me right. And I'm a queen. I'm a queen. It's no longer, you notice it's no longer a princess. I'm a princess. No, you're not. Yield to the princess is now I'm a queen. That's what it is. So if that's what you think you deserve, and that's what most women will say that they deserve, what they're really looking for in a high value guy is a big fish. They're looking for a Bill Gates. They're looking for a Jeff Bezos. Now, those guys are kind of nerds, right? They're kind of autistic. They're kind of like socially, asocial. They don't have the social intelligence that a rapper does, or a star athlete does, or somebody who has some sort of like sexy fame. You can be famous online. It's easy to be famous online. Everybody is, right? But to be famous for something, to have a talent, to have a skill set, to be known for your greatness and your mastery of something, there's different subcategories of that. So if you're the best, greatest, most famous computer coder in the world, that's a little less sexy than if you're the star running back for the Oakland or for the Las Vegas Raiders. So what's happening here is it's not so much about women waiting at the finish line and banging the winners. It's women going, okay, I can't wait into my 30s and hope that the guy that I want to get with is going to still want to get with me. Because when we look at the sexual market value bell curves that I've done, the sexual market value graph, my infamous graph now, women's sexual market value peaks right around 22, 23 years old. For men, it peaks usually right around 36, 37, 38. If you are maximizing your potential, yes, caveat. Okay, got it. However, I think it's pretty much common knowledge that men hit their stride and become more mature and hit their most successful years at least 8 to 10 years later than a woman is already hitting hers. So either that woman has the insight and the foresight to say, hey, I'm going to get with a guy now while I'm 23 years old, and he looks like he's 27 or 28, and he's not quite hitting his stride. He's not made partner in the law team yet, but he looks like he might. That's a good bet. It's like what is it? It's not a put. No, it's like investing, right? It's like I'm investing in a stock that I think is going to mature, and then I'm going to actually get dividends from if I invest my attraction, my arousal, my younger, hotter, tighter years in this guy right now. He might be 27, but by the time he's 37, then he'll be made. Women would, hypergamy in general, but women's mating strategy would love if Rich Cooper's prognostication was true. And in some cases it is. I'm not saying that it can't be or it wouldn't be. But what I'm saying is that most women can't wait for you to be the winner. They can't wait for a guy to get to the checkered flag. So they have to make bets. They have to look for potential. They have to find some guy who has prospects. It would be great if you could find like sort of a turnkey relationship. Like, oh, well, he looks like, well, look at him. There's very few Justin Biebers, right? He's young and he's cute and he's hot, he's talented and he's got a lot of money and he's famous and da-da-da-da. There's only one of those dudes. The vast majority of guys that women will say that is their ideal guy and they're not going to settle for anything less, those guys are very, very few and far between. So what you have is you've got the top 20% of guys, maybe even the top 10 or the top 5% of guys who actually have some identifiable ambition, drive, passion, and they're making strides to get to that point where they will be hitting their prime years, and they're going to hit the ground running, and they're going to be winners. They're going to be the guys that go across a checkered flag, like Rich was saying. But most guys, the 85, maybe 90% of guys aren't that guy. They might have the potential to be that guy. Like, how many Bill Gates are there? How many Steve Jobs? How many Elon Musks? How many Jeff Bezos? Most women today wouldn't have anything to do with a Jeff Bezos. But rewind the tape, go all the way back to 1998. I think that's when Amazon started. We're very close. Let's just keep going. Let's go back to 1998. Sounds good. 23 years ago. So you go back to that time, and now you've got Mackenzie Bezos, who is the secretary, or she's just sort of like, here's a startup. Remember, this is the dot-com bubble too. And she sees this guy. He's probably not very attractive, but she's kind of like, quirky and nerdy and kind of certainly not a catch, right? That's why I call it a big fish, right? But he looks good enough, and it looks like he might have the drive to do something, but he's certainly got talent. He's certainly positioned in the right space, and he's autistic, and he's nerdy, and he's dorky, and he would be, even Bill Gates would have been an incel today. So would Jeff Bezos. So would Elon Musk. You take those guys, you take the 15-year-old version of, let's say the 20-year-old version of Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and even Steve Jobs and all those guys, and you put them in 2021, they're incels. They're the guys who are grinding their teeth, going, "Oh, well, we're never going to score. We're never going to." That's and maybe they're really good at something, but their self-esteem is kind of crushed because that self-esteem is sort of wrapped up in whatever it is they are, or we got a bad draw, right? We got the short end of the stick, socially and physically and everything else. But now you get a guy like Bill Gates, you get a guy like particularly Jeff Bezos. They get with a girl earlier on. If you know the story, I'm going to read this. Actually, this is a good time to read this. So I'm going to put this up right here because this is how Bill Gates, let's put him up there. It's our good friend Bill. Where'd he go? There he is. That's Bill Gates. Now, Bill Gates, that's a very young Bill Gates right there on the, here, let me blow that up even bigger. That's a very young, that's not too much bigger, but that's a very young Bill Gates right there. Let me see if I can expand this. I guess I can't. So anyways, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to read this is a little clip. I believe I picked this up from People, or I can't remember where I got this, but anyways, this is an interview about how Bill and Melinda Gates started dating. Okay. So and really quick. So bear with me. Originally, when Bill and Melinda started dating, the relationship was casual for both of them. Of course it was. Look at the dude. If you took Bill Gates' picture, the one that's on the left right there, when he's got to be in his 20s. Maybe he's even younger than that. He might even be like 19 right there. I'm not really sure because I know guys like Jobs and Gates got started early in life. When it comes to creating computers, Microsoft, all that stuff. I don't have to describe to you what his history is, but if you took his picture and you put it on Tinder right now, or you took it and you put it on any dating profile, does this guy get swiped? Right? Whatever. Do women select this guy? No, they don't. But he's one of, if not the richest, number 2, number 3 richest man in the world right now. If that guy does not look like the guy that the girls on Fresh and Fit podcast or whoever, whatever podcast you want are going to say, yeah, I want to get with that guy. I want to give that dude a chance. So here we go. She had other boyfriends and I had Microsoft. Sound like ambition, sound like drive, sound like, oh, I'm going to do this, sound like single-mindedness. I'm more interested in my software company than I am in getting with this chick. Now, guys are going to say, well, isn't that a good thing? Isn't it good that he's the richest man in the world. He had Microsoft. Yeah, that is a good thing, but he didn't know that at that time. And so his drive is there's nothing wrong with being ambitious, but you have to remember we're looking at this like after the war has been won. So when Microsoft was in its infancy, let's just say. Now I'm not saying it wasn't a good company back, like say in the late 80s, early 90s, but it wasn't what it is today. And he's not the household name, easily recognizable figure that he is today. So Bill says, we were like, hey, we're not really serious about each other, are we? We aren't going to demand each other's time, quote unquote. Plus, Melinda says, I was new to Microsoft. Sound like Mackenzie Bezos? There were a lot of men there, and you are still looking around. But after about a year, sort of to our surprise, certainly my surprise, he said, hey, I love you. Bill said, and she said she loved me. And then it was like, wow. And that's what's going to happen. And again, it's just sort of this, I love how they try to make it sweet and sappy, like it's just sort of this matter of fact thing, but it's really not. When you look at that and you see what's happening there, it's a guy who doesn't have the social skills. He has no game, no formal game, let's just say. And he has, at that point, probably had prospects. And so she was probably more than okay with that. But then yet we're still seeing right now, even to this day, that Bill Gates never gave up he's like an alpha widow, right? He never gave up his ex. And I would argue that if Bill Gates wasn't Bill Gates, he wouldn't be getting with either of those girls right now. So there are factors that have nothing to do with the social skills of that guy, with the physique of that guy, the hot guy in the foam cannon party, right? That the arousal factor of that guy don't have anything to do with that. But a lot of money covers a multitude of sins. Now, again, you don't want to lead with your wallet. I understand that. Yes, and it's not going to buy you genuine desire, as we can probably see right here. Bill's genuine desire was for that probably his original girlfriend, and that I'm going to speculate here. Okay, I don't know. I'm spitballing with this. I would say that the girlfriend, the one I showed just a minute ago, I would say that the girlfriend was the girl that he really wanted to get with at some point in his youth, and that wasn't working out for him. And Melinda was sort of just there, and they were dating a little bit off and on. Again, this is back I would assume it's like in the early 90s. Microsoft's a new company. She's a new employee. There's other guys that are interested in her. He probably didn't think too much of her because his focus, his single-minded, probably one-itis, was still focused on the ex-girlfriend. So much so that once he got married, he worked out an arrangement with Melinda to go and most likely nail his ex-girlfriend once a year. And I will tell you this is I don't think that's Melinda's idea. I'm pretty comfortable in saying that was probably not Melinda's idea. It was just his sort of reality distortion bubble. I'm going to go and have this. Like he probably thought he would justify his lack of desire or whatever with Melinda by saying, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to nail this girl once a year. And she was probably okay with that because at that point, it certainly probably looked like Bill Gates was going to be the richest guy in the world, if not, number 2 or number 3. So they're together. Melinda, of course, turns into something else. If you look at the pictures of Melinda back in the 90s and where she is right now and how she dresses, how she holds herself, you can see she is the primary. She holds frame in that relationship. And he does what he does, whatever you want to talk about. I don't care about the personal life of Bill Gates right here. I'm just identifying this archetype and this story arc right here because you will see this happen not just in his life, but in Jeff Bezos' life, in Bill Gates' life, in even Steve Jobs' life too. His wife was just sort of an accoutrement, right? It was she was just there to, not the one he had actually his first daughter Lisa with, but like the woman that he actually married. And I think when you put guys into that position, it's like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I sent out this tweet sort of as a preview or as a sort of to tease today's show, and that tweet said, "Rich men can't afford to not take the red pill." Essentially, is what it was. Rich men can afford to not learn lessons that they need to learn until they get to a point where they're cutting their assets in half. Now, the joke, of course, with Jeff Bezos is he's the richest man in the world, and in fact, he paid Mackenzie Bezos $33 billion in their divorce settlement, and he's still the richest man in the world. That was just probably a minor inconvenience to him. Okay, now, all you conspiracy theorists, here's your chance. I have actually read the articles or whatever you want to throw at me. Let's just say the speculations here that the reason why Jeff Bezos split with Lauren Dirty Sanchez was that it was an asset protection plan. He got, I should say split. He got with Lauren, but he split from McKinsey. $33 billion. Now, people were saying that he was doing this because I guess recently he sold off a lot of Amazon stock because he sees something coming down the tunnel. He sees the train coming down the economic tunnel right now and is trying to separate his, at least present the appearance that let's say his selling or his moving his assets around is as a result of a nasty divorce. I know that a lot of people are also trying to make comparisons, at least we'll see how the cards sort of shake out with Bill and Melinda Gates here. But they're also saying that the reason he's doing this is because he also sees that the economic forecasts coming down the road here are going to be pretty grim. And he's going to be on the sharp end of the stick here if he doesn't do things like this. And I thought that was it. Now, I don't know. Again, this is conspiracy theory, whatever. And I'm not going to put on my tinfoil hat. I'm not Alex Jones. I let those guys handle those topics. Okay. I will say this, however, is that when rich couples split, I think that it is an indictment on the state of marriage right now that divorce is an asset protection scam for guys that are this rich. To say, you know what, honey, I know we've been together for 25 years, but we're going to get raked over the coals from, taxes or from the economy's going to drop out, the bottom's going to drop out. And now divorce is our best option because, hey, I still love you. We'll still be married, we'll still sleep in the same bed. We'll still sleep in the same house. I'm not saying that that's what they're doing, but I'm just saying the plan could work that way because, and I'll explain the opposite side of this here in just a second, but so when you have a divorce is so screwed up, or marriage, I should say, and divorce are such a racket right now that they can become tax shelters. So if you split your assets up or you can protect your assets, you can just say, hey, we're going to, it's essentially what your marriage is a corporation, and you're divesting your corporation with your woman, right? Now she can go do whatever the hell she wants to anyways, because that's the way divorce laws work. It's an unconscionable contract. Bill and Melinda Gates did not have a prenuptial agreement. And why would they? Because when they got married, he was not the Bill Gates of 2021. He was the Bill Gates of 1995 or something like that. So Windows 95 is out versus everything that's happened between 95 and 2021. Still, should have done it, probably. I don't know how effective prenuptial agreements really are, especially for very rich people. There's ways around them. And if you have enough money and you have a dirty enough lawyer, you can certainly do that. And I'm sure there's probably a team of attorneys right now who are just foaming at the mouth at settling this case. People are saying it'll never go to arbitration. It'll never go to court. It'll be settled out of court. And I 100% agree with that. So it's never going to go before a judge because it's cheaper just to simply separate. But whether it's true or whether it's not, I think it's still an indictment on the state of marriage and the industry, the Divorce Incorporated, right? That it is a viable form of asset protection for very rich men, or it could be. Now, most guys will say, well, you'll get ripped off and you'll lose half your stuff. Yeah. If you're an average guy, even if you're an above average guy, you'll probably still get zeroed out in some way, shape, or form. That's why the joke was, Jeff Bezos, he's the richest man in the world, paid $33 billion, and he's still the richest man in the world and still making money hand over fist, actually, because of 2020 and COVID. But so that's the one side of it. The other side of it that I think is interesting, and we're seeing the same narratives get thrown out right now, is the fact that in a gynocentric social order, when high-profile people get divorced, such as Kanye West, such as Bill and Melinda Gates, name the high-profile couple that has a lot of money, has some kind of fame. Maybe they're actors, maybe they're athletes, maybe they're computer whizzes, whatever it is. Whoever has the most money and they're high profile and they have they're a household name. Whenever there's a divorce in a gynocentric social order and you're looking at that, the focus becomes on marriage. Let's look at marriage. Why? They were so happy. They seemed like they were steady and stable and da-da-da-da-da. And that's where Mr. MGTOW, Mr. Black Pill, Mr. Doomer, Mr. whatever jumps in and says, well, they can't work for them. And okay, what chance do I have? Okay, well, that's the obvious thing. Now, the reason why you think that is because the focus at that point, once that divorce happens, by the way, if that's what your initial thought was when you see high profile divorces, like, oh, I could never work for me. Congratulations. You're part of the gynocentric social order. You're getting that message from women who are saying exactly the same thing, just from their own perspective. So when you have Bill and Melinda Gates, or I love this, when Mackenzie split from Jeff Bezos, every woman in the Twitter sphere, every woman on social media jumped behind her like as quick as they possibly could. And of course, what do? They rationalize everything. They say, well, Mackenzie was there and she helped him start. She was an integral part of Amazon. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? Yeah, she probably owned some stock, right? And she probably had something to do with at least the initial success, because she was there and she was supporting him. But was she supporting him to the tune of $33 billion with a B billion dollars? No. If they divested, if they completely say, okay, Amazon's bankrupt, or we're going to divest the company, we're just going to completely, break it down into little companies, whatever. And all you bigwigs, everybody who has stock right now, you've got to sell off your stock, or we're going to give you the money for your stock right now. Do you think that the amount of stock that Mackenzie Bezos would own, even in Amazon, just in the company that she supposedly was instrumental in, do you think that it would amount to $33 billion if they say, oh, well, I'm out, so I guess I'll take my shares and go home? And that doesn't amount to $33 billion for Mackenzie Bezos. Sorry, not sorry. But the reason why you get those rationales is because it shines an unflattering light on the marriage industry. It shines a very unflattering light on Jeff Bezos. But that's what because they'll look for anything, any reason. It's always the reason that they're looking for the divorce is, well, now, and you've got it right now. Thank God I waited. You've got Bill Gates with his ex-girlfriend, and well, this is a little weird. He's nailing her in this North Carolina beach resort once a year, and Melinda's cool with that. Divorce him. She deserves that money, whatever it ends up being. The same thing's going to happen. The same thing happened, I should say, with Mackenzie Bezos. Because what do? They focus on Dirty Lauren Sanchez, 49 years old. And you got Jeff Bezos, who I think is 55, 56, somewhere around there. And he's getting with Lauren Sanchez, who is a predatory female. And what do? What is the gynocentric, salacious paparazzi press? What does TMZ look at? They look at Jeff Bezos and it's poor Mackenzie. Poor her. It was one of the, if not the biggest divorce settlement up to that time. I will, Melinda Gates, the meme right now is like, Melinda Gates, hold my beer, right? We'll see if she outdoes Mackenzie Bezos for the divorce settlement. But why do they do that? Because they want to, a gynocentric press, a gynocentric media wants to remove the focus from divorce, from marriage, from the resource transfer and the unconscionable contract that is the state of our modern marriage right now, and focus it on the people and the personalities. And usually that's the guy, right? Jeff Bezos couldn't keep his dick in his pants. Ha! Film at 11. Oh, but here's the thing. Mackenzie Bezos became, I think, the fourth richest woman in the world as a result of divorce. And Forbes did and at that time, I was reading this article. Forbes did this article. I think it was either right before that or right after that, where they were looking at the 60 richest women on planet Earth, like in of all time, right? So, of those 60, only 4 of the women on that list actually were self-made millionaires or billionaires. All of the rest, 56 of the 60 had made their money either from inheriting the business, or they had made that money as a result of a divorce. And Mackenzie Bezos drops right into that. In fact, the majority made their money in a divorce. They took half of their husband's assets, half of their husband's, actually in some cases even more than that, and assumed the role of that. Now, if they were married to the guy who was like a oil tycoon or whatever, who was a top shelf businessman, and he died, and she assumed the mantle of leadership. She's the CEO. That would be considered as hereditary. So it's not like her dad died and she picked up the business. In some cases, it's true, but it's passed along. It's not built. And that goes along with the manosphere maxim that men must become and women just are. And when women just are, they make their money and they make their they become strong, independent women, right? And they become enriched and they become empowered as a result of two things: inheriting it or divorce. Those are the two major things. Statistically, this is incontrovertible. You can look at the stats for this and see it. In fact, even in a publication like Forbes or when Morgan Stanley does stats and stuff like that, when you look at that, those tend to be fairly conservative. They're economic, financial publications. They want to promote the gynocentric social order, and they don't even realize that by making those stats public, they're kind of going against their own sort of internal narratives that are going there. But in a gynocentric social order, in mainstream press, the focus is always not on the divorce, not on marriage, but they'll look at why things didn't work out, like they're doing for Melinda and Bill Gates. You look at Bill Gates and you go, okay, he's not Jason Momoa. Okay, he's not running around. He's not Dan Bilzerian. He doesn't have like a bunch of hotties in Maui that he's banging on a catamaran somewhere. Okay. He is Bill Gates. And yeah, maybe he's still got one-itis for his ex-girlfriend from way back in the day. But, he's not prime choice red meat. Let's put it that way. Jeff Bezos, he could be, because he's an arrogant son of a bitch and maybe rightly so, right? But he's cocky, and so he's easier for, I think, a gynocentric press to really kind of dig their claws into. Elon Musk, when Elon Musk posts on Twitter, like, take the red pill, and he trolls, he's a very good troll. Let's just say that. If he's got Asperger's syndrome, at least he's a good troll. At least he's an entertaining troll. But he's with Grimes. He's had God knows how many wives. What, he's got 4 wives? He was with Amber Heard, right? How many kids does he have? He's not even married to Grimes, and she's got 1 kid with him as well. So at least he's not marrying her. Maybe he learned his lesson in that respect. But he's still on the hook, and he's Elon Musk, and he's like, whatever, I can afford it. That's why I posted, rich men will never learn the lessons that they need to learn, particularly when it comes to the blue pill. And that's where I want to go with a little bit more with this here. Let me just finish this thought. The thought was this, is that when we see high profile divorces, the mainstream media will always focus on the guy and his infidelity, his philandering, the dead alligator heads that he keeps in the refrigerator, or whatever it is that will make you think that he's the bad guy. And the woman is like, oh, look, Mackenzie Bezos is giving, she got $33 billion. She's giving $7 billion to women's, empowerment studies in Rwanda, and, give us back our girls, whatever it is. That seems like a full, she's the real philanthropist. It's not Jeff. It's not Bill. And you'll see the same narrative follow Melinda Gates after this. Once the dust has settled and once the cards have shaken out to wherever the hell they're going, you will see that all the positivity will go towards Melinda and not towards Bill. And honestly, probably Bill's okay with that. Like, he just probably wants to do his own thing. And I would say that. So here's going to be my prognostication here. Melinda will be seen as the hero. She will probably be seen as the real philanthropist in the couple. And you will also see that Bill will probably drop out for a little while, but watch what he does. I would argue that he probably will try to get back with the ex-girlfriend. And the ex-girlfriend will see him as a big fish and try to get with him as well. So when you have well, predatory females is one thing, but when you have just women who are like making a bet on a future big fish and it actually pans out and they go, holy shit, I got the biggest fish in the ocean right now. Yeah, they're going to stick with that and they're going to be okay with that. And they're, the whole discussion on, Fresh and Fit or Kevin Samuels or whatever about how is it okay for a high value man to cheat? Well, here you have Bill Gates, who is technically cheating at least 1 week a year. He's got a hall pass, right? He can go and nail his ex-girlfriend, and Melinda will just, okay, I guess I'll just go to Bible study for a week and, give money to homeless children. So when the shit hits the fan, I'll be okay. Now, so he looks a little weird. Yes, I also know he spent time on Epstein Island. Okay, I give it to you. Here you go. There, Rollo said it. Yay. Okay, fine. Whatever. Yeah, I know. Got it. Maybe he's a little weird. There's a lot of people who are a little weird. He's a lot weird. So there's that aspect of it. But when it comes to waiting at the finish line for the winner, waiting for the finish line at the big fish, that is something that women have to make a judgment call on. And that's why they defer. That's why you want to know why dread is such a very effective form of game. That's why, because women have to bet on their future or bet they're as attractive and as arousing as they are. They're the younger, hotter, tighter. They have those years. They have to bet those years, the value of their sexual market value peak years, on the future projected value of the big fish, or what they think is going to be the big fish. Now, if you are already a big fish and you're still blue pill and you're still beta, you are a target, my friend. If you're a 70-year-old guy or a 60-year-old guy and you find yourself divorced or whatever, and you're trying to get back into the now, what is it? Say 40 years later, you're trying to get into the sexual marketplace and things have changed and you're looking for help. I'm not saying that there aren't, there isn't help out there for you. Please, I like to think I would help you. I like to think reading my books would help you as well. I have had guys who I've done counseling with who are as old as 70 years old. In some cases, 172, I think. And the first thing I tell these guys is you are a big fish. You need to protect yourself and your assets and your heart and your way of thinking about it. You need to re-educate yourself. You need to unlearn 40, 45, maybe in some cases 50 years of your blue pill conditioning. And that's tough for them to do, especially when they've got a lot of money and they go, hey, the proof's in the pudding. Look how much money I have in the bank account. I might have lost a bit on the divorce, but look, the numbers don't lie. I must be a badass because I've got what I have. Yeah, you are. You're also a big fish, and you're also a prime mark for a predatory female. And I don't care if you're Bill Gates or you're just a guy who has had a established business in the town you never left since high school, and you make a good chunk of change at that. Maybe you have a heating and air conditioning business or something, and you're the best, most well-respected, richest guy in town as a result of just playing your cards the right way. Now you find yourself divorced because she doesn't want to live with you, or your kids are out, you're empty nesters now, and you're going to be I don't say a victim, but you're a statistic of gray divorce. And so now you find yourself back in the sexual marketplace, and guys in this position, they're one of the toughest things that I've experienced. And I'm going to give you, here's the anecdotes that I'm going to give you today. One of the toughest things that I've experienced with guys who are very wealthy that I have worked with and I have partnered with in my business and my economic past, let's just say, they tend to be very blue pill because they don't have an instance to learn anything that is red pill. Because why would they? They also, most guys who are in the position of, say, a guy like Bill Gates, or it doesn't have to be him, but like guys who are rich, guys who are that big fish profile, they tend to find they base their self-worth and their self-merit and their self-esteem on being a high-value guy, right? I make a lot of money, so I must be, the way I think and my belief set must be the right thing to think. And with regard to women, with regard to life, with regard to raising my kids, with regard to my politics, with regard to my religion, everything else. If I have this prosperity, then what I've been doing must be right. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, now you're in a divorce and it's something, at least a part of it, broke. And you're going, well, why should I listen to this Rollo Tomasi schmuck? Why should I read his book? Why should I get in the red pill? They sound like misogynists to me. And I've been pretty successful for most of my life. And the guy is still very, very blue pill. And he might even be an alpha, but he's still a blue pill alpha. But he's not going to, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if you don't have occasion to learn those lessons and you're insulated from learning those lessons as a result of your success and your prosperity, you're even in a tougher spot because no one is going to be able to tell you shit. They're afraid to tell you no. I have known millionaires, and in some cases, multimillionaires who they will go through pretty much their entire life without anybody ever telling them no. You can't do that. And the minute they do, they lose their shit and they cry and they screech and that's when the autistic side of them really comes out. That's how you know. By the way, I should say that as well. I learned this from personal experience, is that you will not know a person, especially if it's somebody who's your business partner or somebody who you work for or somebody who you have even some kind of respect for. The moment you say, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I vote no for that. The moment you do that and you tell them no, a person who has never been told that or is very rarely told that, and they turn into a 12-year-old petulant child, that when somebody tells you and shows you who they are, believe them the first time. That's all I'm going to say about that. However, most of these guys don't, most very rich guys who do everything by the old set of rules, and they prosper as a result of that, whether, or maybe in spite of that, when you get them to a point of crisis or where something breaks, like their divorce, that's when they maybe want to listen to you. Maybe there's sort of a hesitancy there, at least, because they know they want to get back in the game and they need somebody to give them, to advise them about the new sexual marketplace. But there's a hesitancy, and that hesitancy comes from having learned the blue pill and learned a form of game that is based on transaction. First of all, most of these guys, certainly Bill Gates, certainly Jeff Bezos. I would also argue probably Elon Musk, have a very firmly embedded understanding of intersexual dynamics that is based and founded on transactional sex. It's not based on validational sex. In fact, their entire groove, their entire game is built on one side of hypergamy, which is the beta buck side. Have a lot of money, have a lot of assets, have a lot of friends, or have status. What the 3 Ps: protection, provisioning, and parental investment. And then have that in spades. Have so much money that it covers the deficits of anything else you could possibly have. And if you're okay with the transactional side, you're never going to learn the red pill. You're never going to be red pill aware. Or if you are, you're going to reject it. And you have a real tough time accepting it, that's for sure. But I will tell you this right now. If you're an older man and you're watching this right now, and you're between the ages, say, 45 and 65, or maybe 75, we can even go that far. If you're that guy and you're trying to get, you're just this side of a divorce and you're trying to get back into the game and whatever else, you need to bust yourself down to apprentice level. That's what Robert Greene talks about in his book, Mastery. Most guys won't do that. They want to learn something. They want to master something. They want to get back on the horse and ride, but they don't, they have a sense of ego. They have a sense of self, let's just say, that prevents them from doing that. And why would they, right? They go to work and everybody says yes. Yes. Money. Here, oh, look, I'm profiting, so I must be doing something right. Screw this guy. I'm not going to bust myself down for anybody. Well, the problem is you will be a prime mark for the next Lauren Sanchez. You'll be a prime mark for the next girl who sees you for what you are. You're a beta chump with a lot of money. You're a big fucking fish. And and you know what? There are other predatory women that are swimming around you too, because they know you're a big fish. They'll fight amongst each other to try to get to you. I'm going to fucking better than you. Oh yeah. I will. No. And then they will try to get to the point, because especially when it's a woman who is like just this side of 40, who's definitely out of the sexual marketplace, has hit the wall per se. Let's just go there. 40, 43, 45, Lauren Sanchez, 49 years old. And she's just this side of menopause too, if not already, perimenopausal at that point. And a guy like Jeff Bezos looks at her and goes, yeah, I want to get with that. Where does that come from? Most guys are dumbfounded by that, by the way. When that went on, and I will be, when you look at, I can just give you this example right now. When you look at Bill Gates getting with his ex-girlfriend, she's not that much to look at. She probably rocks his world, and he's probably still got one-itis for her, and he probably still thinks that she's his soulmate, and he probably buys into a lot of that blue pill crap. Certainly a soulmate. Oh, I knew she was the one, but I couldn't have her, and now she's probably divorced, and he's already married to Melinda, but he wants to still nail his ex-girlfriend because he's technically the alpha widow in this case, or she's the one that got away. But now, because he's got so much bloody money, he can go and have whatever the hell he wants. So what does he choose? He doesn't have hot swimsuit models on the catamaran like Dan Bilzerian. He gets with this girl. He gets with this chick right here. And so this is the ideal chick for Bill Gates, apparently. Now, we can make physical comparisons, but like we're talking about, these are mortals, right? These are average women. Even Melinda Gates is an average woman, or she was certainly when she was younger. And you look at this girl right here. This is probably from, I don't know how old this shot is, but this is something I pulled off recently. And I don't even know this chick's name, and I don't care to know her name. All I can say is that if that's what he's going back to, or if Jeff Bezos is going to Lauren Sanchez, he's probably blue pill. He probably thinks that that's the right thing to do. Well, the monkey doesn't reach for another branch or let go of the branch unless she gets to the next one, or he gets to the next one. We talk about monkey branching in women all the time. Guys will do it too, especially rich guys, because they can afford to screw it up. Jeff Bezos could afford a $33 billion divorce. He could probably afford 4 of them if he wanted to. If that's what he chose to do with his money. He's not going to do that, but he could, and probably snap back from it. I don't know how much he has made or Amazon has made. I know he stepped down as the CEO of Amazon. So my warning to you guys is that money is most definitely not an insurance policy against the blue pill, against your blue pill conditioning, against being a beta, against being a guy who under any other normal circumstance, Bill Gates would never be even with Melinda or this other girl, right? He'd probably be at home jerking it off. He'd probably be dead, to be honest with you. And I don't mean that. I don't wish death on him or anything. I'm just saying that most guys between the ages of 45 and 65 years old, that's a prime demographic, especially white men in particular. That's a prime demographic for suicides. And when do those suicides come? Right after a divorce. So he's got enough money to be insured against that. He probably doesn't care too much that Melinda is. And by the way, Melinda did initiate the divorce. So that's another statistic that you're going to see. The femstream press, the gynocentric media, is going to casually sweep under the carpet. They'll say, well, it was mutual. No, she filed for divorce. Sorry, not sorry. That's the facts. So when women start talking about how, she deserves that money or blah, blah, blah. Well, she initiated divorce. It's not a mutual thing. It's not, please give us our privacy. You know where she went, by the way, to get her privacy? She went to a private island that is apparently $132,000 a day, a week or a day. I don't even know. She's there sort of convalescing, right? She's with her girlfriends crying in her, Apple teenies, whatever. She's probably happy as a pig in shit right now. But, what do we know? What do us plebes know about that kind of stuff? So the moral of this story is, as I was saying, is if you're a blue pill guy and you have a lot of money, you are probably insulated from a lot of this stuff. If you've got assets in excess of like $10 million, right? Or assets in $100 million. The more money that you have, the likelihood of you being more insulated against seeing anything from a red pill perspective with respect to intersexual dynamics with the wife that maybe you married when you were poor, right? When you weren't a big fish, now you're a big fish. Now you do have that kind of money. I mean, I realize that in some ways that's kind of like an apex fallacy. Like, I'm going to be super rich, so I'm going to need a I'm going to need a prenup. No, guys don't get prenups because they go, well, what am I going to be? They don't have that kind of foresight. They're not aiming for the moon, right? But remember that if you do, and you happen to be single, and the more you lose your kind of mind about things, the easier a mark you are. And women look for that, especially women who are motivated to look for that. So if you're dealing with a personal trainer or a physical therapist or whatever, and she's a hot piece of ass and she's like maybe like 29 or 30 or something like that, that's one thing. And you're probably not going to get with that chick. But if she and maybe she wants to get with you, maybe she doesn't. You're 50, you're 60, you've got a lot of money, and you think you're the shit because you have that money. You're basically saying, hey, here I am. Here's the big target right here. I'm a mark. Come on get me, ladies. And women will come and get you, because by the time they get to the reason I wanted to sort of escalate or age this, let's put the scroll bar up a little bit. When a woman gets to be about 40 and she's single and she's on Tinder, likelihood is she's got some kids in tow or whatever. She's looking for the short-term sex. I talk about this, by the way. Actually, this is not a bad time to put this up. This is the timeline of what you can expect from women at various stages of their maturity. This is from my second book, which is The Rational Male Preventive Medicine. And a lot of people talk about this book as if it is the sort of like a guide, like a field guide almost to what you can expect from women. Now, is it 100% accurate? No, but it's just like sort of gives you an outline of what you can expect from women at these various stages of maturity. And you'll notice that right around the 37-year-old mark, right, you'll see an alpha reinterest right there in women. And usually that's when women get into the one that got away. I wish I was with my soulmate, the cute guy, the hot guy in the foam cannon party that I had sex with that one spring break. I really wish I could get back to that. I'm almost 38, 39. I'm going to divorce this guy and do the eat, pray, love thing. It's like Stella got her groove back, right? I'm going to go and become a cougar, right? You go, girl. That's when divorce porn kicks in, right? That's the prime demographic for divorce porn. So that's what I've sort of loosely labeled the development phase, because what happens is that there becomes sort of a dissatisfaction with that woman's life. And she's saying, oh, do I really want to live with this guy for the rest of my life? Now, it can happen sooner. It can happen later. Just depends. Sometimes it doesn't happen at all, right? Maybe she got with the guy or maybe she is so unattractive by this point that she's doing the best she can. She is really literally with the best she can do. She acknowledges that, and this doesn't happen. But in a gynocentric social order, in a global sexual marketplace, this happens more often than not because women believe they have more options than they actually do. So right around 37, right there, what I said is it's the peak sexual market value for men, but right around that same stage is when women sort of have what I call the reinterest phase, redevelopment or reinterest. What did I put there? So it's reinvestment basically. So right around the development phase and right after 40 right there, that's when women are reassessing. Do I want to live the rest of did I marry the right guy? Is he the one? Is he the best I can do? Now, hypergamy is always based on that doubt. It's always going to be based on can I do better than this dude? And as long as that answer is always yes, or as long as the answer is, well, I'm not what I used to be, then you're probably going to be with the chick. It might not be based on genuine desire. It might be based on necessity, but it is what it is. And when a woman makes that decision, says, I'm going to divorce this guy, she has an incentive to get with a big fish. And if a woman has been with a bunch of guys, or she's had in her past, in her party years, as her hoe phase, right, up through her 30s or whatever, and she's had enough beta orbiters, and she's had enough experience with guys, and she understands male nature well enough to find a guy with a big fish with a lot of money who is still stuck in his beta way of thinking, in his blue pill conditioning, is a jackpot for a woman like that. Because she knows how to turn on the charm. She knows how to be sexy for that guy who is in no way used to that kind of stuff, especially if he's a recent divorcee who's been in a sexless marriage for 10, 20 years. All she has to do is be more sexual than the bitch that wouldn't have sex with him in spite of him being this huge big fish, and maybe she took half of it. but he still has a lot of money. All that new chick has to do, all the 40-year-old girl has to do, is be more sexual, more vivacious, more fun, more feminine, and play the game better. And the bar is so low at that point that it's practically an automatic. So it's hitting the win button for a predatory female who understands men's nature. And that's what you have to protect yourself against, gentlemen. And that's the moral of today's story. So when I talk about a big fish, are you a big fish? Ask yourself, are you a high value man? We all love to think that we are. Great. We think that there's a real sense of power and a real sense of sexual selection as a result of that. The only way you get that is if you kill the beta, is if you unlearn the blue pill conditioning that you probably have learned. And stop being resistant to it. Bust yourself down to apprentice red pill, right? Apprentice game guy, right? Apprentice, okay, all bets are off. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm a white belt. I'm going to go learn the martial art of game, or the martial art of the red pill, or the martial art of being more aware of women's nature. And now we have the information, and we have the data, and we have the technology, right? We can rebuild ourselves as a result of this. That's what you need to do. I've worked with enough guys to do this. I've seen this happen enough. I have known guys, again, personal stories here. I've known guys who are wealthy men, let's just say multimillionaire men. Now, not like God tier, wealth, but let's just say in the tens of millions. I've known guys who have tried to start businesses, or they're legitimately bona fide entrepreneurs, tried to start new businesses, tried to get angel investors, tried to get this thing, try to get their partners together to start a new venture of some sort. And their friends and their previous business partners who helped them out in the past won't have anything to do with them because they're a risk. Now they're divorced, and they saw what happened, and they saw how that guy works with women, and how his and I mean, by work, I mean like interacts with his wife and everything. He's divorced. She took half his assets. She took half of his ownership stakes. He had to buy her out, whatever, because she's got a vested interest in his business, because that's the rules, right? That's the all downside rules for you. And they don't want to do business with him because he's still a chump. He's still blue pill. And they see it. They can't even put their finger on it. They won't even call it blue pill. They just don't have anything. He's too much of a risk, because I'm not going to go and build another business with this guy if he's just going to go get married to some other girl who sees him as a big fish, gets him on the hook, and says the right things to him. And he's still a chump. He's still a beta. He's still a puss when it comes to his wife and it comes to girls and everything else, because he's a rip. Why would you do that? So I'm going to build another business with you after you've been zeroed out by the first wife? No, they're not going to do that. And I've seen guys do exactly that. Bail on and the guy is pissed off because somebody told him no. And then second of all, he's like, okay, he feels like he's stabbed in the back, or he's been betrayed by these guys. Well, they won't help me out now. No, they just see what you are. They just see what you did. Many rich men don't have the occasion to learn women's nature, nor the incentive to do it anyways, because they've got money and they think they're doing it right. Their game is buy the pussy, whether that's rent it, whether that's pay for an escort, whether that's pay for, girls in Maui on your catamaran, or it's buy one chick and pay her and pay her and pay her and pay her. So when you got Melinda Gates here, who maybe at some point saw that Bill Gates was going to be a big fish. He was probably already probably a bigger fish than she knew of anybody else at that time. She's going to play her cards right. We read the introduction there. She had guys that were already looking at her and wanted to get with her at Microsoft at that time. She knew who he was. If a woman knows you're a beta in waiting, you're like 30 years old. Let's just say for sake of example, let's round the ages off. You're 30 years old. You haven't quite hit your prime years. You haven't hit your stride just yet. But you're still pretty paid. You're still pretty well off. That woman wants you to be dumb. I've said this before. Like when a woman gets into the epiphany phase, she's looking for what Sheryl Sandberg has said is there's nothing sexier, right? You're looking for a guy who wants an opinionated woman and wants an equal partnership. And an equal partnership means that if you divorce me, I take half of your shit. But the egalitarian side of that, they're looking for a beta. They're looking for a properly conditioned beta who made good. And they're very rare, but it's not like they don't exist. Or a guy, a beta who's still a beta and waiting, and he's not quite the big fish, but probably in 4 or 5, maybe 6 years, if he keeps doing what he's doing, he will be a big fish. Women see that and they make those projections like stock traders, man, like freaking boiler room, man. Like they understand what is it? The Big Short, like the guys in there, that's the predatory female with you. The guys in The Big Short, you're the short. You're the big fish that they're going to screw in the end. They're playing the long game. Now, are they malicious and evil and they this is my plan? Yeah, no, it's just a progression. Well, it's logistics. It's common sense. If I can find a guy who's still dumb about the sexual marketplace, but he's done a lot and he's going to make a lot of money, or he already has a lot of money, and he's so stupid that he doesn't understand the game that he's in, there's lots of women that want to tell him that. So I just told you the anecdote about the rich guys and how the women want to, like the older women want to get, they're incentivized, of course. Now, younger guys. So if you're 30 years old, you don't even have to be so much of a big fish. You have to have the potential for a big fish, right? But you're a beta and waiting, you're 30 years old. And what's the first thing these guys report to me when I'm doing counseling with these guys, or even maybe just like in the comment section? I have read like so many of these incidences that it's a predictive framework now. But guys will get to be 30 years old and they'll go, Rollo, I can't believe it. You know, the girls that wouldn't have anything, they wouldn't even give me the time of day when I was 22. That girl who I really wanted to bang back in, my freshman year of college or whatever, and she was, fucking the guy in the foam cannon party somewhere. But, now that I'm 30, she's calling me up. She looked me up on Facebook. We're going to reconnect. We're going to go get coffee today. We're going to have a great time. I'm going to take a rock climb. I'm going to use the red pill on her. No, you're not, because she sees you as the big fish. The chips are down, man. When women get to the 29 to 31-year-old demographic right there, they're worried that they're not going to have a partner to walk out of the club with when the lights come on. And you're the dude. And they're open about it. They'll say this now. And you have to be aware. You can't be stupid anymore. You have to be educated. You have to be red pill aware. Protect your assets, your ass and your assets. But they'll tell me that. They'll say, all these girls, man, they're coming out of the woodwork. Well, the girls that wouldn't give me the time of day when I was in high school and freshman year of college and everything else, I must be doing something right. Yeah, you are. You got a lot of money. You got a lot of prospects. And she's at her most necessitous point in her entire life, because if she doesn't cash her chips in, the casino's going to close. That's why. and guys are just dumbfounded about that because they're still ignorant of the process. They're still ignorant of their value to women. We talked about that on Rule Zero last week. The most threatening thing for a woman is a man who understands and capitalizes on his own intrinsic value to women. Women want a man who other men want to be and other women want to bang. They also want a man who, they don't want a man to cheat, but they love a man who could cheat. But they also need a guy who's dumb about that. They need a guy to be sweet and nice, and they want Superman, but they want a dumb Superman. They want, and by dumb and ignorant, I mean ignorant of women's mating strategy, which is kind of ironic when you think about open hypergamy and just how blatant and in your face and triumphal they are about, waving their mating strategy. I'm going to have my cake and eat it too and have chocolate sprinkles on it, right? Those are the girls that, the girls who can't do that. The girls who get past the epiphany phase and they haven't found the guy who is ignorant enough to get with them, or ignorant enough to believe that they are in some way aroused or interested in them suddenly romantically. Why now? Those are the girls that Kevin Samuels gets on his show and talks about and dresses them down because they missed the boat. The train pulled out and they weren't there, still at the station, and they ain't coming back. So what are those women looking for now? I want a high value guy. Yeah, of course you do. You want the guy who's already crossed the checkered flag. You want the winner that Rich always talks about. That's what you want. You're not going to get it. Or I shouldn't say you're not going to get it. You're less likely to get it. You know why? Because when a guy gets to be, if you're 33, ladies, if you're 33 years old and on average, statistical average, you're looking for a guy who's anywhere between 3 to 7 years older than you. So if you're 33, you're looking for a guy who is somewhere between 36 and 40, somewhere around there. And that guy, if he is the high value guy that is a big fish to you, the likelihood is if he's still single, first of all, and he realizes his own value, he's not looking for a woman in your demographic. Certainly not with your baggage, certainly not with your mindset, certainly not with your attitude, certainly not with everything. Like, women have their own blue pill conditioning too, which, by the way, ladies, you need to unlearn just as much as guys need to unlearn that. Because we're now we're in the new order. We're not in the old order anymore. So those guys in their prime demographic, their prime sexual market value years, are looking for women that are younger, hotter, tighter, of course. They're looking for the girls who wouldn't give them the time of day when they were coming up. And now that they're up and they're hitting their stride, maybe they don't want the 22-year-old, but they certainly want the 26-year-old. That's something that they can work with. They don't want the girl who's run through, but they don't want an 18-year-old girl in Miami Brickell district, right? Because they're looking for something that they can build, someone they can build with, and that someone is not a 33-year-old woman who has had all that. But if you're a big fish and you find a guy, if you're a woman who's 33 years old and you find a big fish, you find a guy who's like 36, 37, he's making a lot of money, he's a winner, he's crossed this finish line. The best thing in the world for that woman is that you're dumb, and that you are ignorant of the game, and you're ignorant of your own sexual market value. You're humble. You have humility. You don't think you actually, in some ways, you might even be self-deprecating because you're still blue pill. You might even be a good-looking dude. You might even be like Giga Chad, and you might even have a lot of money. You might even be Bill Gates and Giga Chad, and if you're blue pill, you're a mark. And if you're an easy mark, oh shoot, that's icing on the cake for women, because that's what they need. You want to know why I always say that men hit their sexual market value peak right around 36, 37, 38 years old? Is not because I think that, guys are going to be in their best shape of their lives. No, you're probably in the better shape of your life if you did it right, if you maximize your potential back in your 20s. For sure, I will acknowledge that right now. But the reason why you're in your sexual market value prime is because you have the most, or you have the potential to have the most of what women need the most when they're the most necessitous. And that's why they come on all sweet and strong to you, and they want to bake you cookies, and they want you to settle down, and you better do the right thing, mister. You better put a ring on my finger. And suddenly they get really kind of self-righteous. And if you're still blue pill and you're a chump and you believe in that same thing, well, I know she's had other guys, but now she wants to get right with God, and I'm the guy here, and I've stuck to my guns, and you make it a moral issue. Yeah, you probably think you're the man, but all you're doing is facilitating her mating strategy. That's what you're doing. So, gentlemen, unlearn that which you have learned. That's what you have to do. You have to unlearn the blue pill. You have to unlearn that old way of thinking, doing the right, playing by that old set of rules, because that's what keeps you ignorant. And the more money you have, the more assets you have, the more talents you have, the more potential you have to make a lot of money, to be a big fish, the bigger the mark you're going to be for women who since they were like 10 years old have been understanding the nature of boys and then men and what it is that they do, and they separating the guys they want to fuck and the guys they want to marry. Remember my poor girls, right? Would you have sex with the guy on a first date? Well, if he was hot and cute and I was drunk, he was cute, and one thing led to another, right? But not if he had boyfriend material. He was boyfriend material. Not if he was, it's cads versus dads, right? And women are upfront, and they have no problem with that cognitive dissonance. They'll have sex on the first night in Cancun on spring break with that guy, because it's an immediate, like, a hypergamy cannot afford to miss that kind of reproductive opportunity. But if you're the guy who comes across as being kind of naive, maybe you're the guy that she wants to marry, not the guy she wants to fuck immediately, then you're put into a sort of, you're typecast, right? That's who she looks at you as boyfriend material. And if she's 23, she's not looking for boyfriend material. When she's 30, she's definitely looking for boyfriend material, because it chips her down. If you don't understand that, if you can't wrap your head around that, if you have a self-righteous sense of ego because you're doing the right thing, right? There's nothing more annoying, I should say. There's nothing more self-righteous than a blue pill beta male guy who's made a lot of money, and suddenly a girl that from his past looks him up on Facebook and they get married all of a sudden because she is just into him like he thinks it's genuine desire. She really wants me, Rolo. I got to get with her, right? No. And it's convenient. I get this all. I've had like guys like Pat Stedman and other guys throw rocks at me saying, well, don't you think that she's sincere? She really does want to get right with God, and she really does want to, turn over a new leaf, and she wants to get serious, and she had her fun, and she was so crazy in college. Don't you think that she's honest and genuine in that? Yes, I do. That's just the problem. She believes it. You believe it. It's not the belief. It's not the approaching it from being genuine or being disingenuous. It's why now? Why at 30 years old? Why then? Why not at 20 when she's in her prime? Why not at 22, 24? Because that's when she's her most necessitous. And she better get you while you're still stupid before you have your midlife crisis. That is really not a crisis. It's just you coming to terms with the fact that, oh shit, I'm in my prime now. I could have, what have I done? I've got kids. I got a business. I got a house mortgage. I got dogs in the yard. What am I going to do? I think I'll buy a sports car. You're just trying to relive your youth. No, you're not. You're just realizing your worth. That's what you're doing. You're a big fish. You're on the hook. Bring you right back in. And why then? Why now? I'm not saying it's in some cases, it could be disingenuous, of course. Women believe it. They would pass a lie detector test for something like that. Guys too, they believed it. I believed her. I thought she was sweet. She really wanted to get with me. Yeah, I'm sure she did. So anyways, that is my show for today. I have to go. It is now 1 p.m. here on the left coast in my secret bunker somewhere situated in the northern Nevada desert out in the scrubland. I will be back on the show on Wednesday. I'll be doing a 30-minute show there. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you want to support the show, once again, Patreon's good. PayPal is good. I take crypto as well. Just have a look down there and see what you like. And if you don't want to make a financial contribution, that's okay too. Please get the book. Read the book, educate yourself. Like I said, you need to, don't be dumb when 30 comes, right? And so have a look at that. The Rational Male, where did I put it? There it is. Rational Male Religions right there. You'll find it. It's the very first link in the description below. Read that. That's my latest book, or you can read the first one, which is the Bible of the Manosphere, as probably most of you already know. There you go. I will be on tomorrow, by the way, on Rich Cooper's show, which is Before the Train Wreck. We're going to be talking about raising daughters. I wouldn't be surprised if we talked a little bit about Bill Gates too. But we'll be talking about raising daughters, and he has a daughter that's much younger than mine, but I have a daughter as well. So we're going to be talking about that. That's one of the questions we get a lot. Me in particular. Oh, what would you tell your daughter? Okay, well, here we're going to dedicate a whole show to it. Fire away. You guys can ask questions all you like. That will be at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, which is where I am. And that'll be on Rich Cooper's Entrepreneurs and Cars channel. And that show is called Before the Train Wreck. And that will be tomorrow, with being Monday, which is the 10th. So there you go. I have a few little special announcements that I wanted to get to, but I think I'm going to wait on them. On Wednesday, I think I'll pop off with them. I am going to be going out to Florida again. And I will explain to you guys why I am going there. And yeah, part of it is because of Fresh and Fit, but there's another thing that I'm doing as well. So, and if you want a teaser, go look at George Gammon's YouTube channel, because I'll be joining George Gammon at some point during that trip. So have at it, and let me know what you thought about this in the comments. And I hope you enjoyed it. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye, guys.